Hello everyone, I am very glad that you're joining this story. Subscribe, like and comment. Enjoy the story, smile more often.
Thanksgiving is supposed to be a time for gratitude, for family, for warm hugs and laughter echoing through the house, but all I could feel was the pressure of my knees pressed against the underside of a table clearly designed for someone half my size. My chair creaked with every shift of my weight, wedged between a juice box sipping 5-year-old and my cousin's teenage son who hadn't spoken a word to anyone in 2 years. The tablecloth was Peppa Pig themed, again, and the cutlery was plastic. Not the nice compostable kind, either, just the kind you find at a gas station or a toddler's birthday party. I'm 39 years old. I pay taxes. I've managed corporate budgets larger than my brother's mortgage. But every Thanksgiving without fail, I'm seated at what they still call the kids' table because I've committed the crime of being single. Never mind the fact that my sister's third husband is already halfway through his third whiskey by the time we sit down. Never mind that one of the kids is actually 21 and has 2 kids of his own. I'm the one without a spouse, and that apparently makes me emotionally closer to the children than to the adults I was raised with. Mom barely even glanced at me when I pointed to the place card. Yes, they used place cards, and said, "Really?" Her response was a distracted shrug as she stirred gravy on the stove, already turning her attention back to my married sister. The one who always arrives 40 minutes late with a Pinterest-worthy casserole and a carefully curated sob story about how exhausting it is raising twins with a husband who, quote, means well but doesn't help. It wasn't just the table. It never is. It's the sidelong glances during grace when the cousins thank God for their spouses and children, and everyone turns to look at me like I'm the last slice of pie no one wants to claim. It's the follow-up questions, seeing anyone special? Always phrased with the hope that maybe this year I've found someone to fix the glaring issue that is my independence. And if I say no, if I dare to answer honestly, it becomes this awkward silence like I've just confessed to a terminal illness. Then someone chirps in with the classic, "Don't worry, it'll happen when you least expect it," as if I haven't been not expecting it for the better part of a decade. It used to roll off my back. I used to laugh it off, sip wine from a solo cup, and distract myself with the mashed potatoes. But this year something cracked. Maybe it was the moment when my 9-year-old niece, chewing with her mouth open, turned to me and said, "Aren't you too old to sit here?" Not even out of malice, just curiosity. The kind that stings more because it's so pure. She didn't mean to humiliate me. She just mirrored what everyone else already thought and never said out loud. And I laughed, because what else was I supposed to do? I didn't say, "I'm sitting here because your parents think marriage is the only ticket to adult status." I didn't say, "I'm here because no one in this family can picture me as a whole person without a +1." I just took a long sip of my red wine and told her, "You'll understand one day," even though I hope she never does. My older brother Greg sat at the adult table in his usual position at the head, making loud dad jokes and reminding everyone that he got a promotion last quarter. His wife laughed at all the right moments and casually dropped hints about their upcoming trip to Aspen. He caught my eye at one point and gave me that smirking nod, the one that says, "Hope you're enjoying your side of the room." Greg's always had that need to win, even when there's no competition. I kept glancing over at the adult table, and not once did anyone look back. It was as if they couldn't even see me across the room, as if I faded into the background like the wallpaper they stopped noticing years ago. The only acknowledgement I got was when my mother shouted across the room for me to help clear the table, my table, the kids' table, before dessert. I did it. I picked up the sticky plates and wiped down the cartoon-printed cloth, listening to the buzz of conversation from the real table, where the real adults were sipping after-dinner wine and discussing mortgage rates, soccer teams, and home renovations. When I passed by, no one paused their story to say thank you. Not even my mother. Later that night, while everyone was huddled around the TV watching the game, I stood alone in the kitchen refilling my wine. I could hear them cheering, laughing, having a grand old time. I looked out the window at the leaf-strewn backyard, where I used to play tag with those same cousins who now barely acknowledged me. And then I looked down at my solo cup and thought, I'm not doing this ever again. It didn't feel like a declaration, not at the time. Just a whisper of a thought. A small rebellion. but it stuck. That quiet, internal vow began forming roots in my chest, and before the wine even touched my lips again, I already knew. Next year, I won't be here. Next year, I'll be anywhere but here. There's something about humiliation that hardens into resolve when you sit in silence long enough, nursing cheap wine from a solo cup while your cousins clink their actual glassware in the other room, pretending you don't exist unless they need help with the dishes. On the drive home from Thanksgiving, the air was cold and my chest felt colder, like some part of me had finally snapped off and wouldn't be coming back. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't call a friend to vent. I just drove in silence with my hands tight around the wheel and the phrase, "I'm not doing this again," echoing louder than anything I could have screamed. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I knew something had to change. I didn't start with a plan. Not right away. First, I just ignored the inevitable group chat. You know, the one, family messages pinging with cheesy gifs, early December talk of who's bringing what for Christmas dinner, and of course, the thread where my mom would gently ask, "Can you help with setup this year again?" As if I hadn't been doing that since I was 22. This time, I didn't respond. I muted the chat and didn't even feel guilty about it. Instead, I poured myself a glass of bourbon, opened my laptop, and started Googling phrases like solo travel Christmas and island vacations for one. At first it felt like a fantasy, something to daydream about while I imagined all of them pretending not to notice my absence. But then I stumbled on a listing that actually made my heart race, a small private island resort off the coast of Belize, offering what they called a solo luxury package. It was all-inclusive, offered just 6 villas total, and looked like something straight out of a stock photo dream. White sands, clear water, hammocks tied between palm trees, and the kind of meals served on plates so fancy they made your mom's Christmas roast look like cafeteria food. The sticker price nearly made me choke, $8,000. But the more I stared at those pictures, the less I cared. I started doing the math, seeing where I could move money around. Savings account I barely touched. Credit card points I never used. That emergency fund I'd been building up, just in case. Well, this felt like the emergency. And anyway, with the tips, transportation, gear, and other extras, it really only came out to about 12 grand total, which wasn't that much more than the original price when you broke it down. I made a spreadsheet. Literally. I titled it Operation Screw You All and had tabs for flights, lodging, outfits, excursions, and captions. Yes, captions. If I was going to blow up my holiday tradition and drop a $12,000 middle finger to my family's subtle cruelty, I was going to do it with style. I ordered 3 new swimsuits, a pair of overpriced sunglasses I couldn't really afford, and a waterproof phone case. Every dollar I spent made me feel lighter. Petty? Maybe. But also kind of healing. I told no one what I was planning. Not my friends, not my coworkers, not even the few people I actually liked in my extended family. I played it exactly the same as every other year. When someone texted, "Hey, are you coming for Christmas this time?" I just replied, "Not sure yet. Work's kind of nuts." That was enough for them to stop asking. When you're single and quiet, people are very comfortable forgetting about you until they need something. This time, I leaned into that invisibility like armor. The day I flew out, it felt like I was escaping prison. The airport was a mess, but I didn't care. I smiled through every delay and every screaming toddler in line, knowing full well that none of them were coming with me. The second I landed and stepped onto that dock, with the breeze off the water and someone handing me a drink made of coconut and rum, I knew I'd done the right thing. For the first few days, I didn't post anything. I just basked in the silence. No screaming kids. No casserole critiques. No one asking if I had finally found someone. Just me, the waves, and a silence so pure I almost cried into my breakfast mimosa. Then, on Christmas morning, I opened Instagram and posted the photo I'd been saving. My bare feet in the sand, a beach chair in front of turquoise water, and my hand holding a drink with a tiny umbrella. Caption: Best Christmas yet. 0 screaming children. Within minutes, the family group chat started lighting up. My cousin Lauren messaged, "Wait, where are you?" My sister sent, "OMG looks beautiful. followed by a passive-aggressive, "Didn't know you were going on a trip?" I ignored all of it. Logged out. Took a boat ride around the island. Got a massage. Ate fresh lobster on the beach while a steel drum band played holiday songs in calypso rhythm. That night, after my third cocktail and an hour spent reading in a hammock under the stars, I opened the group chat one more time, just to peek. Greg had replied, "Looks lonely." I smiled. I poured another drink. I thought about sending a selfie of me cheers ing the camera with the ocean behind me, just to push his buttons. But I didn't need to. The photo had done its job. This year, I wasn't sitting at the kids' table. I wasn't serving dessert or pretending to laugh at the same tired jokes or holding someone's baby so they could eat in peace. This year, I was exactly where I wanted to be. And that was just the beginning. It started almost immediately after I posted that first beach photo, and I knew it would, because if there's one thing my family is more addicted to than casseroles and holiday judgment, it's keeping tabs on each other's lives through the tiny digital peepholes we call social media. I hadn't even finished my second drink when the notifications started coming in, one by one, like little passive-aggressive firecrackers popping off in my pocket. The first comment came from my cousin Natalie, who's never posted anything that didn't involve either her toddler or a pyramid scheme. She dropped a "wow, must be nice," with a little eye roll emoji that I could feel even though I refused to open it. Then came my sister, who never misses a chance to make something about herself. She posted, "Hope you're having fun." It looks quiet, followed by a message in the group chat that said, "We missed you this morning," with a picture of the family gathered around the breakfast table, half of them looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. Greg, of course, chimed in later with the classic move of someone trying to poke without looking like they're poking. He commented, "Looks lonely, but hey, the view is great," as if I'd accidentally stranded myself in paradise and needed reminding that I was alone. What he didn't realize, what none of them seemed capable of realizing, was that being alone didn't feel like a punishment this time. It felt like liberation. It felt like peace. So I decided to keep feeding them little tastes of my newfound freedom, and I'll admit, I leaned into it with a level of pettiness I haven't allowed myself in years. The next photo was of the breakfast spread they served on the beach: tropical fruit cut into perfect shapes, eggs that actually tasted like something, and a mimosa that didn't come from a bottle someone found on sale at Costco. Caption: "Best eggs I've had without someone yelling over them." I posted a short video of the ocean gently hitting the shore with nothing but calm in the background. No screaming, no clanging of silverware, no one yelling from the kitchen for more ice. I wrote, "Can't believe I used to spend this day in a folding chair with a Paw Patrol tablecloth." The likes rolled in from friends I hadn't talked to in years, but the family group chat went silent for several hours. That silence? That was my win. Later that night, I posted a shot of me mid-stretch in a yoga class on the dock at sunrise. I didn't even know what half the poses were called, but it didn't matter. The caption read, "No kids crawling under me while I'm in downward dog." Imagine that. It was about this time that the texts started trickling in, not on the group chat, but as private messages. My cousin Derek, whose last text to me was 3 years ago about borrowing an air mattress, suddenly wrote, "Hey, what's this place called? Looks kinda dope." One of my aunts sent a message that said, "Wow, we didn't know you were a traveler now. You always kept things so low-key." Low-key. That was always their way of saying I was invisible until I became useful. The one who always showed up early to help set up, who stayed late to help clean, who brought wine and never complained even when I ended up alone at the kids' table, again. Flashbacks came hard and fast, like mental grenades. The time I got a wedding invitation from my own cousin with a note that said, +1 only for married couples, hope you understand. The brunch I wasn't invited to because it was for couples only, and apparently just having a pulse and a personality didn't qualify me. The family vacation I wasn't told about until photos showed up online, with everyone smiling on a cabin porch like they hadn't just left me behind like luggage too heavy to carry. And now they were watching me, sipping cocktails with my feet in the sand, and wondering how I pulled it off. By the third day, I had started befriending a golden retriever that belonged to one of the resort owners. He would just wander over during my morning coffee and flop at my feet like we'd known each other for years. I snapped a photo of the two of us lounging in a hammock together, his head resting on my leg like he'd claimed me as his human. That photo was the nail in the coffin. Caption: at least someone's loyal. The reaction was almost immediate, but the one that mattered the most wasn't from Greg or Natalie or anyone else with a sarcasm addiction and a superiority complex. It was from Grandma. She replied, publicly, under the photo, "Next year, can I come with you?" I read it twice to make sure I hadn't hallucinated it. She didn't text me. She didn't call. She posted it right there for everyone to see, like a lighthouse shining through the fog of judgment and fake concern. And I swear I could feel the shift in the air from 1,000 miles away, like the weight of the family's assumptions had cracked just a little. I didn't respond right away. I let it sit there like bait in the water, waiting for someone else to take notice and say what we all knew. The tables were finally turning. And for once, I wasn't the one who needed to speak first. Returning home felt strangely anticlimactic, like stepping back into a life I'd already outgrown but hadn't yet figured out how to leave behind for good. The snow had crusted over the driveway, the thermostat struggled to warm the house, and the fridge contained exactly what I'd left in it before the trip: condiments and regret. I unpacked slowly, deliberately, as if reversing my vacation piece by piece might dull the edge of the inevitable family fallout I knew was waiting for me like a bad hangover. At first, though, nothing happened. No calls, no texts, no guilt-laced voicemails from my mother, no snide follow-ups from Greg, and not even a passive-aggressive meme from my cousin Natalie. The silence was louder than anything they could have said, and for a few days, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, they'd gotten the message and decided to leave me alone. That illusion shattered exactly 4 days after I returned, when I got a text from my mother that simply read, "Let's talk." There was no punctuation, no warmth, no context. Just those 2 words like a summons from a judge who'd already decided on the sentence. I didn't respond right away, partly because I didn't want to, and partly because I needed to figure out how much of myself I was willing to put back on the table, both figuratively and literally. In the end, I agreed to meet her for lunch at the same dull cafe she always picked for its healthy options and unspoken rules about polite conversation. She was already seated when I walked in, sipping unsweetened iced tea like someone who believed flavor was an indulgence. Her face was tight, the way it gets when she's holding in disappointment and trying to coat it in maternal concern. She didn't hug me. She didn't even smile. Just gestured toward the seat across from her like she was inviting me to a business negotiation she expected to win. "I'm glad you could make time," she said, like I'd been avoiding her rather than the other way around. I ordered a coffee, because if I was going to be interrogated, I needed something stronger than kale water. She let the silence stretch a bit too long, the kind of pause meant to make you fill it with guilt, but I just stared back until she finally caved. "Everyone's been a little concerned," she started, in that cautious tone she used when she wanted to sound supportive but couldn't quite bury the judgment. "You disappeared for the holidays. No explanation. No involvement. It made things difficult." I almost laughed. Difficult? Compared to what? Years of being sidelined, ignored, treated like a benchwarmer while the married cousins played starter in every family photo and social event? I didn't say that. Instead, I reached into my bag, pulled out a thick envelope, and dropped it on the table with a weight that cut through her rehearsed calm like a butcher's knife. She opened it slowly, hesitantly, as if she already knew it wasn't going to be something she could brush aside. Inside were glossy prints, actual printed photos I'd ordered online, because I wanted her to feel them. The beaches. The food. The sunrise yoga. The golden retriever asleep in the hammock. Each one more vibrant and alive than anything they'd experienced over turkey and screaming toddlers. "This was my Christmas," I said quietly, but firmly. "Where were you again?" "Oh, right, arguing over dry turkey and whose toddler knocked over the gravy boat." She didn't say anything at first, just flipped through the photos like she couldn't decide whether to be offended or impressed. Eventually, she looked up, narrowed her eyes in that way she did when she was about to pretend to take the high road. "You know," she said, It's not healthy to isolate yourself from family. Relationships matter. I leaned back in my chair and let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Funny, I said, I don't remember anyone worrying about my relationship with family when I was serving pie to a table full of 8-year-olds because I didn't have a ring on my finger. She looked genuinely stunned, like it had never occurred to her that being single didn't mean being emotionally available to serve everyone else. I let the silence sit there for a while, let it make her uncomfortable. Then I delivered the final blow. I'm going back next year, I said, watching her flinch just slightly. Already booked the deposit. And Grandma's coming with me. That was when she truly lost composure. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, and for a split second I could see the exact moment the realization hit her. The rules were changing, and I wasn't going to play the old game anymore. You're taking Mother on a tropical vacation? She asked, clearly appalled at the audacity. She asked to come, I said. And she deserves to sit somewhere better than between a diaper bag and a screaming toddler for once. The conversation spiraled after that. She tried to guilt me, to talk about family traditions, about unity, about setting an example. I let her talk. I didn't argue. I didn't need to, because that envelope on the table said more than I ever could. Later that night, I got a message from my cousin Ethan, the one no one listens to because he's quiet and polite and married to a woman who everyone thinks is just a little too much. Okay, his message read, "Real talk, can I come next year too?" I was still smiling at that one when the notification hit. Instagram. My younger sister had just posted a story. It was unmistakable. The same villa. The same beach. The same damn hammock. Her caption? Paradise with my man. Had to check it out. Copycats. I closed the app, shook my head, and poured a drink. Turns out, revenge vacations are contagious. Exactly 1 year later, I stood barefoot on the same stretch of warm sand, salt in the air, the kind of breeze that doesn't rush you but wraps around you like an old friend, and watched Grandma sip something strong from a coconut with her pinky up like she was the queen of this place. She was wearing a bright floral cover-up that probably belonged in a costume bin back home, but here, under the sun and with the ocean behind her, it somehow looked regal. She had kicked off her sandals hours ago and declared the beach heel-unfriendly, then laughed at her own joke so hard she snorted. I think that's when I realized something had shifted, not just in her, but in all of us, or maybe just in me. The first time I came here, I came to escape them. This time, I came to build something new. The travel crew had expanded in an unexpected direction. In addition to Grandma, I had invited 2 people I barely knew in real life, a guy named Danny from a Reddit thread about solo Christmas escapes, and a woman named Lee I'd met through a group chat called Holiday Orphans Anonymous. We'd all had different reasons for wanting out of our family's estrangement, toxic dynamics, just plain exhaustion, but we'd bonded over one common truth. Sometimes blood doesn't mean warmth. Sometimes it just means obligation. Danny was a quiet software engineer with a dry sense of humor and a tendency to, quote, die hard, like it was scripture. Lee was bold, hilarious, and completely unapologetic about drinking wine at 10 in the morning. Grandma adored her. She kept calling her the good kind of trouble, and Lee soaked it up like she'd never been complimented by a woman over 70 before. I'd expected this second trip to feel a little more performative, like maybe the novelty would wear off, but the weird thing was it didn't. If anything, it felt deeper this time, like I wasn't just proving a point anymore. I was starting a new tradition, not to make anyone jealous, but because I finally understood that I didn't need their approval to be happy. Back home, the family chat had gone oddly quiet since my sister's copycat trip. She'd posted a flurry of photos from the island back in January, all carefully filtered and clearly staged, her boyfriend grinning in a way that looked more like a hostage video than genuine joy. After that, she barely said a word. I found out later from one of my cousins that they'd broken up a month after getting back. Apparently Paradise didn't patch things up the way she thought it would. Greg got divorced. No surprise there. His wife had finally gotten tired of the smug performance he called a personality and moved out with their kids. He sent me a message, very vague, very sad, asking if we could grab coffee sometime. I didn't respond. Not out of spite, but because I knew what that conversation would be. He'd ask for sympathy, but not admit to anything. He'd tell me how hard it's been, then maybe pivot into asking if I had a lead on a job or a couch to crush on if things got worse. Even Mom had gone quiet. Her last message had been a link to an article about the dangers of aging alone, with no comment attached, just the link. It sat unread in our thread for days. Eventually, I deleted it. I won't pretend it all didn't sting. It did. Some nights, lying under the stars with only the waves for company, I'd think about the years I spent trying to make them see me. All the fake smiles at baby showers, the endless maybe next year when I was told I didn't qualify for a +1, the polite deflections when someone asked if I ever got tired of being alone. The truth is, I did get tired. I got exhausted. But now? Now I wasn't tired. I was sun-kissed and slightly buzzed and surrounded by people who actually listened when I talked and didn't reduce me to my relationship status like I was some half-baked version of a person. That night on the beach, we all gathered around a small bonfire. Me, Grandma, Lee, and Danny, and toasted with mismatched drinks and plates full of grilled seafood. Grandma raised her glass and said, "Best damn Christmas of my life," then smacked Danny on the arm and told him to pass the plantains. I laughed so hard I almost cried, not because it was particularly funny, but because it felt like something had finally come unlodged from my chest. And I thought about all the years I'd spent wondering when it would be my turn, when I'd finally be allowed to sit at the adult table, be taken seriously, be treated as someone whole and worthy without the context of a partner beside me. Turns out I'd been asking for a seat at a table I never needed to sit at in the first place. Just as I was about to get up and grab another drink, a man approached me quietly from the edge of the resort, the same man I'd seen checking guests in and out, always in a pressed shirt, always with the clipboard. He handed me a small note, folded twice, and smiled like he already knew what it said. It was from the resort owner. "You've been invited to co-invest in the island's future. We think you'd make a great partner." I read it twice, then looked around at the people I was with, the makeshift family I hadn't expected to find. Lee was telling Grandma a story that involved tequila and a stolen Christmas wreath, and Danny was calmly roasting a marshmallow with the precision of a man defusing a bomb. I looked back at the note and smiled, the kind that starts deep in your ribs and works its way up until it takes over your whole face. "I think I just found my forever place," I whispered, mostly to myself. And that was the last year I ever went home. No one's ever asked why. Not once.